up, kiddos? Trowbro back with another Drawing with Trowbro, and today we're going to be looking at Claude Monet, one of my favorite Impressionist painters. He tried to paint a lot of feeling into his paintings, and I think you can see that. He played with color a lot. And one of my favorite things about Claude Monet is that he used complementary colors to make shadows. So if you wanted to make a green a little bit darker, instead of using just black to make the green darker, he would use green's opposite color. So if you look at color wheel and you go to the opposite side, the opposite of green is red. Red and green are complementary colors. They're opposites and they complement each other. If you put red and green next to each other, they look really nice together. And so that's how he would make shadows, is he would use, instead of using black to mix with green, he'd use red. And so the green would be a little bit brighter because red's a brighter color than black. And so all of his paintings are super powerful. I really like them. We're going to look at this one right here that he did some lily flowers, and that's going to be the basis of our project today. So get your pencils ready and let's get started.
Here on my left, I have my inspiration for this, my lilies, and I'm going to start with making the first flower, and that's going to be a simple U shape. After that, I'm going to put a little dot right in the middle, and I'm going to draw an M on the left side, and then I'm going to draw an M on the right side. So that'll give me 4 little petals. Now to draw the lily pad, I'm going to go up a little bit on the flower, and I'm going to draw what looks like a pancake. It's going to go all the way around and comes back to the other side of the flower. That makes it look like it's sitting on the lily pad. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Draw a U, a big bowl shape, and then from the middle, draw 2 M's. Now, if I draw another pancake right here, I might bump into this other one. So when I bump into it, I kind of have to stop and pretend and then continue drawing. So now I have 2 lily flowers sitting on some lily pads. I'm going to draw another little half of a lily pad over here so it looks like that the picture keeps going on. And you know what, I think I'm not going to be done. I'm going to add a couple little more lily petals right in between my M's. I was going to draw like looks like a little mountain in between each little petal. Okay, that'll make it look like the lilies are just a little more 3D. Since my drawing is now done, I'm going to be using some oil pastels to color my picture. Now, if you don't have oil pastels, you can use crowns, you can use paint, you can use colored pencils, you can use markers. The reason why I'm using oil pastels is because you can mix them a lot like you can with oil paint. You might be saying to yourself, Mr. Trowbridge, why are you coloring those white flowers white? They're already white because the paper's white. That is true, but when I go to add a little bit of pink to my flowers, I can mix them, all right? Now, if you're not using paint or something, you're just going to use like red paint and then just like add a lot of water to it and to make it a light pink color. But for my oil pastels, I'm going to actually take red and I'm going to mix the red and white together to get that cool, fun pink color. Or you know what, I could use pink instead, but once I mix it, it's going to really look pretty. Now, in order to blend this pink and this white, I'm going to go back to my white and I'm going to color it right on top of the pink, and that's going to help blend it in to make it look like a nice, pretty lily flower. Now, I kind of feel like this is a little too light, so I'm actually going to take red just to darken it up a little bit more. So I'm just doing little lines right there at the bottom. I'm going to get my white back out and blend that red in so it turns to a little bit like a darker pink. I don't want red. I want it to be a pink, but I want it to be a little bit easier to see. You're probably noticing that I'm speeding some of this up, and that's just so you don't have to sit here and watch me color it, but I'm taking my time. If you need to, you can pause the video in between things, or you can rewind it, but I'm taking my green, and now I'm going to color my lily pads. And I always try to go around the shape first. Before I color anything in, I want to define my shape and say, this is the lily pad, this is what it looks like, then I color it in. Now, since I just used the green out of my box, I think it looks a little light, like it looks a little flat. It doesn't really look 3D, so I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow to it. So I took a darker green, and right underneath the flower, I'm just coloring it a little bit darker so that it looks like the flower is making a shadow. All right, when the sun's up at high and it's beating down on you, it usually casts a shadow. So I'm using a dark green. If you don't have a dark green, you can use green's opposite color, which is red. Okay, green and red are opposite. They're on the opposite ends. And then you can just blend that red in with green, and you'll get kind of like a darker green with it. So just a little bit of red, and then you take your green and you go right on top of your red. Now, don't add too much red, or else it'll just look like red. But if you just do just a little bit of red, and then you take the green and color it in, you'll get a nice dark green shadow color right underneath your lily flowers, and it'll look at a lot more 3D. This next part is going to take a long time because there's a whole lot of water on this picture. So just like my lily pads, I am going to define the shape. I'm going to go around the perimeter of all of my paper. I'm going to go around the lily flowers, I'm going to go around the lily pads, and I'm also going to speed this up. But make sure that you go around all the edges of your drawing. So then I know what is water, what is flower, what is the pad. Keep them all separated, but I always go around my shapes. Define your shapes, it's really important. Now that I'm done with my blue, I'm actually going to add a little bit of green to it because I think sometimes when you use a color right out of the box and you don't change it at all, it's a little boring. And so with my green, I'm going to color it right on top of my blue. And blue and green, they're neighbors on the color wheel. So when you mix them, they look really good together. So I'm going to add a little bit of green right on top just to give this a little bit more of an interesting color, a little bit more fun. And I'm lightly going over the whole thing. I'm looking at my lily flowers. I don't feel like it's dark enough. I'm going to do another row of blue right on top of this. A little bit darker blue too. This is a different blue than the other one I was using. Just to make it a little bit darker, because if you look at Monet's on the left, it's pretty dark. Alright, for this next part, I'm going to take a piece of paper towel and I'm going to fold it into a small little tiny rectangle, and I'm going to use it to blend all of my water. Now you got to take your time with this. I'm going to speed it up so it's going to look like I'm going really fast, but you want to take your time because you don't want to blend that blue over your flowers. But this is going to make sure that you don't see any of those little white spots on my water. I want it to be all nice and blue. And so I'm taking my time going around my lily pads, going around my lily flowers, but I'm just going like little bitty circles. I'm just going back and forth and just using a paper towel. It takes a little bit of time, but it makes it look a lot like a painting, even though I didn't paint this. I used all oil pastels. Once I'm done blending, I am then all finished with my Monet lilies.
Well, kiddos, I hope you had fun drawing lilies with me. Make sure that you keep practicing. Stay tuned to my channel because we're always drawing new things here. And I'll see you next time on Drawing with Trowbro.